Are you having trouble deciding if your friend is a real friend? What do you mean by real, you may ask? Well, I'm talking about a friend who has your best interests at heart, a friend who is genuine with you and not sneaky. If you've had a friend for a while and you feel unhappy or that something's just off, it may be a sign for you to take a moment to determine whether or not this friend is a true pal or a toxic one. Here are 6 signs they're not your real friend. Number 1, they don't show interest or ask about the details of your life. How much interest does your friend show in your life? Do they ask you how your day was? If they do they actually listen or look like they can't wait until they can talk next? A genuine friend is just that, genuine. So if they ask how you are, it may be polite at first, but if you have something to say, they'll be sure to listen and show support. They care about you and simply want to get to know you better. Here's to hoping you show as much support and care towards them too. Number 2, they're not reliable and they're not there when you need them the most. Friends are there for you, especially when you're having a hard time. If your friend can't stop talking about themselves and their problems while not considering your own, then they're likely not a real friend. You may be actively listening to all of their worries in tough situations. I had to take the garbage out today. There were so many dishes piled up and they smelled so bad. Jason never called me back. My ferret died. Okay, the last one was pretty bad. So, be there for them, but if one day it's then your turn to talk about your worries and all they do is interrupt with a quick, "Oh, I gotta go," or they don't even bother to ask, don't even bother with them. Unless this is an uncommon occurrence with them and they're going through something, then they're likely placing all their negative energy on you and taking all of your positive, while not bothering to give back. If you still wanna be friends and sense there is something else going on, bring up your concerns with them. Mention that they haven't been there for you as much as you'd counted on. If they still won't listen, it's likely you're in a toxic relationship. Number 3, they're extremely critical of you. Some fake friends can be extremely critical of their friends. Remember, your buddies shouldn't be your biggest critic. They should be your biggest fan. Some friends can offer constructive criticism because they want the best for you and want to see you improve. They're honest, but they'll likely do so in a kind, friendly way if they are a good friend. If your pal is toxic, they'll probably just shame you rather than provide helpful critiques. If they're a good friend, they may just give a kind dose of honesty and advice. Number 4, if they say sorry, their apologies don't sound genuine. Does your friend say sorry when they're wrong? No? Uh-oh. What about when they do? Do they sound genuine? No? Double uh-oh. If your friend is one to ignore your friendship concerns with a look of meh, then they're likely not a genuine friend. If your friend does apologize when they're wrong, but it's along the lines of this, "I'm sorry you feel that way," then they're not taking accountability for their harmful actions and owning up to what they've done. Good friends can admit when they're wrong. They'll then try to work on correcting any negative behavior that affects their friendship. So do you do the same? Number 5, they keep score on how many times you wronged them. Does your friend hold a grudge? Do you hold a grudge towards them? Toxic friendships often involve one or both of the friends involved keeping score of mistakes the other has made. When you do something that upsets them again, or maybe you're in an argument, they'll bring up all the disappointments and negative things you've said or done. Arguments can get out of hand sometimes, but a toxic friend will tend to bring up the toxic scoreboard only when they're confronted with their wrongs. They'll use all the times you did something similar as a means of not having to apologize or take accountability for what they've done wrong. A good friend is honest and listens to the concerns of their buddy. While everyone can argue, a healthy friendship is filled with healthy constructive discussions rather than toxic fights. So if your friend is acting a bit harmful towards you, how will you bring up the issue? Best to do so by having a healthy, open discussion so things don't escalate. If they still don't budge, then you'll have to decide if they're really a good friend or not. And number 6, they play on your insecurities and make you feel unhappy. Do you feel unhappy around your friend? Insecure? You don't need to feel your most joyful self when around your friend. That's normal. And there can be times where you feel nervous or unhappy as well from time to time. But if your friend makes you feel bad about yourself, then this could be another sign you're in a toxic relationship. You shouldn't always feel on edge around your friend, afraid of their next criticism or harsh words. Maybe they make snide remarks or always hold themselves in higher regards to you. A toxic friend may play on your insecurities to make themselves feel better. Both needs should be met in a friendship, without hurting the other's feelings or making them feel unhappy. Take note of how you feel after each interaction with them. Next time you hang out with them, you may have had a few fun moments, but do you come home feeling discouraged, humiliated, or insecure? Is this because of something they frequently say or do? If so, it may just be that you have a toxic friend. So do you see any of these signs in your friendships? It's best to either openly discuss these concerns with them or think about letting them go as a friend. Do you see these signs in yourself? If so, know that change is possible. Work towards correcting any negative behavior you recognize in yourself. It may just be a small step you have to take first. Then, when you recognize and genuinely apologize for your wrongdoing, your friendship may have a good chance to get back on track. Sooner or later, you may get back to a real friendship. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to click the like button and share it with your real friends. As always, thanks for watching. Fans, we're back to help you understand everyday psychology better. Trauma is often the result of an overwhelming amount of stress from a situation that exceeds one's ability to cope, such as the death of a loved one, the end of a meaningful relationship, or the rejection of a loved one. Do you pretend that everything's good when it really isn't? When you don't have a positive and healthy way of dealing with your trauma, you end up repressing your negative emotions. It can be hard to recognize unresolved trauma on the surface, especially within ourselves. So, here are 9 signs you're still suffering from unhealed trauma. 1. You resist positive change. When something good comes into your life, is your first instinct to be suspicious of it? You have an innate feeling of shame or guilt whenever you allow yourself to grow attached to someone or celebrate your own success? If so, you might be carrying unresolved trauma within you. You have a hard time accepting positive change and may even try to resist it at first because deep down inside, you feel like you don't deserve to be happy. 2. You need to plan for everything. Do you have a need to stay completely in control? Do you feel frustrated and lost whenever things don't go the way you expect? Your need for control is most likely rooted in a traumatic experience that left you feeling helpless and vulnerable. As a result, you micromanage everything and worry about the things that are out of your control. This shows that you have a deep-seated distrust in both yourself and the world in general. 3. You have a strong fear of failure. Being afraid of failure is a normal part of human nature. However, a strong fear of failure can be unhealthy if it starts to outweigh your motivation to succeed. Not only do you miss out on a lot of opportunities and stifle your creativity and ambition because of it, but it can also lead to perfectionism and insecurity. It might be instilled in you by unresolved trauma that causes you to have a negative belief in yourself and internalize your shortcomings. 4. You have a strong fear of success. Alternately, repressed trauma can also manifest through a strong fear of success. Did you ever hold yourself back from getting something you wanted, not because you feared you might not get it, but because you feared what would happen when you did? You're afraid of losing what you'll have even before you achieve it. The tendency to unconsciously sabotage your own chances of success is often associated with those who were abandoned or lost a loved one at a young age. 5. You have difficulty concentrating. Trauma has a lot of damaging psychological effects, and it's not uncommon for victims to suddenly have difficulty concentrating. If you've been having gaps in your memory, blacking out often, and finding it hard to keep your train of thought, it might be your mind crying out to you for help, asking you to work through your trauma. 6. You have trouble asking for help. Do you have trouble opening up to others about what happened to you? If you've experienced some form of abuse or mistreatment, you usually struggle with asking for help. You'd rather suffer in silence because you're too afraid to reach out to someone else. You don't want to be rejected, denied, judged, or seen as weak by those around you. 7. You often hurt yourself or others. Do you lash out at other people when you're experiencing intense emotions? Do you push your loved ones away and isolate yourself whenever you have to deal with a problem? If you're still hurting from unhealed trauma, there are times when you might end up taking it out on yourself or those you care about. You become emotionally volatile, out of control, and overly sensitive. You lose your temper, break things, and may even resort to self-harm. 8. You struggle with low self-esteem. There are a lot of ways trauma can skew your self-image, especially if it's rooted in your early childhood experiences. Abuse, abandonment, and neglect can all lead you to question your own self-worth. You struggle to feel good about yourself if the abuse was inflicted upon you by someone you loved. Studies have shown that patients with PTSD often suffer from low self-esteem and feelings of worthlessness. And 9. You have unexplained psychological symptoms. Do you feel more anxious and panicky than before? Do you find it hard to feel happy or find pleasure from the things you used to enjoy? Have you lost your appetite or have trouble sleeping well at night? According to research, anxiety, depression, disassociation, depersonalization, panic attacks, frequent flashbacks, nightmares, and emotional distress are all common in patients with PTSD. Have you or someone you love ever experienced a traumatic situation? If so, how do you plan to overcome it? If you're still suffering from any lingering psychological trauma, it's important that you reach out to a mental health care professional today and get the help you need to get better. Healing from trauma takes time and effort, but it's worth it, and it's necessary in order to truly move forward in life and find some peace of mind. Please do share this with those you think might benefit from it. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.